Hey, Luke here. So in this video we're going to be talking about how you can ride waves for the first time. So this is a real beginner introduction into riding waves. It's just starting at the very start. So if you've been kite surfing for a little while or kiteboarding on a twin tip and you think, how do I get out in the waves and ride them and have fun? That's what this video is about, because we're down in Coffs Harbour, which is where I learned how to kite, right here on this beach. I've got a place just across the road here, and this beach is where I basically spent many hours learning how to kite. And it's just an open ocean beach, so there's often sort of waves that come in here, and there's always, not always, but 90% of the time when you kite surfing here, the wind's coming from exactly the same direction. And so this is somewhere that I just spent a lot of time learning how to kite, and it just so happens that this is exactly the right setup for what I would recommend you go and try to find in order to start kite surfing in the waves and actually ride a wave. And so we're just going to go through how this setup is and why I think it's a great one to look for, so that you can get out there and ride some waves, and just how easy it is and how fun it is, because it's probably some of the most fun that I have riding waves. When the waves are good and the wind's good, it's just you spend all many hours out there just absolutely loving it. So we're just going to draw a quick little diagram, and then we're going to get out there on the water and I'll just show you how it all comes together. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to grasp with the camera, but what we've got is the beach coming down like this. You can see the coast basically going straight along here. And we've got the wind coming on, blowing onto the beach like this. So it's cross onshore conditions. So it's not completely cross shore and it's not completely onshore, if you're not familiar with those terms, but it's cross onshore. Now it could be coming from here, and that would still be cross onshore, but just from another direction, and both of these are really well suited to this particular riding. We've got waves that are coming in to the beach like this, and they're all rolling into the shore, and we know that when we're kite surfing we go perpendicular to the wind, so we go across the wind. So we've got the wind direction like this, so it means that starting on the beach like this, we're going to be tacking out like that, and also coming back in like this. Now, in the real world, what that looks like is actually riding from the beach point that we're standing on right now and going out to that island and then coming back in. So what happens is you can just happily go out there, just kite surfing how you normally would, riding out on, for me anyways, a regular stance rider, riding out on my heels, coming back in on my toes, and I could just tack all day long going backwards and forwards like that. But when you start adding the waves into it, what happens is, as you start this tack back into shore, so coming back in from the island, coming all the way back into the shore like this, you can start to catch up with some of these waves that are breaking. Now, because the wave is traveling this way and you're coming across it like this, it just seems to happen perfectly that you can ride along the wave as it travels and intersects with this tack line. So nothing actually needs to change, and this is why I think it's probably one of the better ways to start riding waves, because you don't have to think about the kite too much. It's exactly the same as normal riding. You ride out on your heels, you come back, you're riding on your toes, but it just so happens that a wave starts to form up in front of you and you can start to surf it. It's a different style to the other type of wave riding, which is downwind wave riding. So for instance, if this wind, let's just say for instance, it's coming like this straight down the beach, we could still ride out like this off the beach, find a wave that's coming in, turn and start riding straight down the wave like that, hitting it, big turns into it like that. Now that is also really fun, and you can have cross offshore conditions, cross onshore or cross shore, and ride down the wave. But what happens there is it's a little more complicated with your wave, with your kite. So either, and you may have seen if you've been looking into sort of wave riding, there are wave specific kites. This one's the Ocean Rodeo Rome, which is their wave specific kite. And the reason that it's good for waves is because you can just let the kite be when you start heading downwind, and it drifts. So the really good kite specific, wave specific kites will drift down in the wind, right? They don't fall out of the sky, they just keep drifting with you, which means you can head off the beach, turn and start kiting down this wave using the wave as power, doing turns, and the kite will just like naturally just drift back in the window, waiting for you to, you know, give it some input to ride back in or keep going out or something like that. If your kite doesn't do that though, you have to be very active steering the kite in order to keep the kite in the air while you're riding at it. In my mind, that's a sort of a little more complex way to start wave riding, and this is one of the reasons that, you know, I really loved this type of wave riding first, because not only with downwind wave riding, which is awesome, like don't get me wrong, as you progress you're probably going to want to get into that because it's excellent and you can get barreled and all sorts of things. But as you're riding down here, you're losing a lot of ground, which means then you have to tack out and tack all the way back up and then start again. Whereas this upwind wave riding, just like we've got today with the cross on shore, just means you can just go out and in and you never lose ground. You can just ride like this all day, out and in, out and in, out and in, hitting these little waves and having a really good time. So let's get out there and I'll show you exactly what I mean on the water. But I think if you're looking for, you know, a few little waves and you want to get yourself on the water and riding waves, look for this type of setup in your sort of area. Straight beach, cross on shore conditions with little waves rolling in, and it'll basically be the same setup as this. All right, cool, let's get out there.